Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cutting through all the marketing hype, all the specs, to really analyze one of the most fundamental choices in tech.
Yeah.
How do people and big organizations actually select their operating systems and the apps that run on them? It seems so simple, you just click install, but the drivers behind that choice are, well, they're incredibly complex.
That's exactly right. And our mission today is to give you a kind of cheat sheet for this. We're going to ignore personal preference, I like this brand, and dive into the foundational criteria that dictate necessity.
Necessity, that's the key word.
It is. When you see a huge company standardizing on one OS, they're not doing it because the CEO likes the desktop background. They're following a really rigorous 6-point checklist. And if a tool fails even one of these criteria, it's just out, it's disqualified no matter how popular it is.
Okay, so let's unpack that. We basically distilled this whole decision matrix down into 6 core forces. First, you've got cost, then security, hardware, and software compatibility.
Features, business or user needs, and finally, performance.
Exactly. And these aren't just, buzzwords. They are the real-world financial, regulatory, and physical constraints that decide what software gets the green light. So let's lead off with the big one. The elephant in the server room. The factor that immediately dictates if something is even possible. Cost.
Right.
Everyone focuses on that license fee, that sticker price. But how often is that upfront cost really the whole story?
Almost never, especially for any kind of large-scale adoption.
Yeah.
We had to shift the conversation to total cost of ownership, TCO.
Right, TCO.
Sure, you might get a free open-source operating system.
Yeah.
That sounds great. But if that OS requires you to hire, say, 3 specialized engineers just to maintain it and patch it.
And integrate it with all your old legacy system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the TCO is way higher than a paid enterprise solution that comes with full support.
Yeah.
The free option becomes incredibly expensive.
And that's where the analysis gets really interesting, right? The direct link between that higher expense and specialized functionality. You often pay more because the vendor is pouring money into R&D, compliance, and guaranteed support.
That's it. When our sources talk about expensive software, they're pointing out that this money buys you layers of capability that a free alternative just can't fund. Think about really niche industries like financial modeling or advanced medical imaging.
Super regulated.
Super regulated. The cost includes the vendor's liability, their compliance with international data standards, continuous patching. You're not just buying a tool. You're buying an insurance policy.
That actually makes me think of a classic example of this cost-feature trade-off, image editing.
Perfect one.
You have Adobe Photoshop. It's the industry standard. It's powerful. It costs money a subscription. And then you have GIMP, which is free and, it's very capable.
Yeah, a lot of people, yeah.
For an average user, GIMP might be totally fine. But for a professional agency, Photoshop offers seamless integration with the whole Creative Cloud, specialized color handling for print.
The CMYK handling.
And professional support that stops you from losing billable hours to troubleshooting. You're paying for that entire professional ecosystem.
And that need for a specific capability, that professional ecosystem, it leads us right into our next driver, features.
Right.
Features determine the basic utility of the software. If it can't actually do the job you need it to do, then the price or the security just doesn't matter.
And we should probably define features beyond just a list of buttons in a menu. We're talking about critical differentiators.
Absolutely. It's about how those extra tools, those built-in features, can dramatically speed up your workflow. It's the difference between a basic text editor and a full-on desktop publishing suite.
One saves you immense amounts of time.
Exactly. And the perfect example of this feature depth is Microsoft Excel. Most of us probably use, 10% of its capabilities?
If that.
But what makes it so powerful for businesses? What justifies that enterprise license are the advanced features, things like Power Query for complex data handling or the new dynamic array formulas.
These aren't just little add-ons.
No, not at all. They are sophisticated analytical engines built right in. They let users manage massive data sets and automate reporting without having to write a single line of external code. Those specific features make it exponentially more useful for a power user.
Okay, but what if you have this amazing feature-rich piece of software and it just won't start on your machine? Then the whole conversation is over.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So moving from function and price, we hit the unforgiving world of compatibility. This is where the rubber meets the road, or maybe where the kernel meets the hardware.
It's the ultimate gatekeeper. It's completely non-negotiable. The software has to work with your existing devices, your printers, your other programs, and OS compatibility is the foundation for all of it.
It's the base layer.
It is. If the OS doesn't support the latest graphics driver or some specific storage server your company uses, then every application that depends on it just fails.
And probably the most, I guess, restrictive example of a compatibility constraint has to be macOS, right? The rule is just ironclad. macOS only runs on Apple hardware.
It is. It seems like a limitation on the surface.
But what's the deeper implication of that really strict vertical integration?
Well, the implication is it's really twofold, and it's a brilliant trade-off in design. On one hand, yes, you get vendor lock-in. You're tied to one manufacturer, which can mean higher costs and less choice.
Sure.
But on the other hand, that control lets Apple optimize the OS for the silicon, for the actual chip, in a way that general-purpose OCs like Windows or Linux just can't.
So you get better performance tuning.
Better performance, more integrated security, and much, much simpler maintenance and patching. So compatibility isn't just about will it run, it's about how well it runs because of that synergy.
That perfect fit. That leads us right into our next driver, business or user needs. Once you know it's compatible, the software has to meet a specific goal. Are we trying to satisfy a strict legal requirement, or are we just, editing vacation photos?
And this is where we separate convenience from necessity. Some apps are for the general public, focused on being easy to use. But high-stakes professional software is built around processes, not just simple tasks.
What do you mean by processes?
They need to handle specific data inputs, they need to guarantee an auditable trail, they need to manage permissions for multiple users in real time.
Okay, let's make that concrete. Take business accounting. You could try to run a company's books on a spreadsheet. You could use all those amazing Excel features we just talked about.
You could try.
But why is something like QuickBooks the go-to? Why does it fulfill those strict professional requirements?
Because it's built to ensure financial compliance and integrity. Things a spreadsheet just can't reliably do. QuickBooks automates critical processes like generating VAT reports or managing payroll tax deductions.
And creating audit trails.
And creating audit trails that will satisfy an external regulator. These tools aren't just nice-to-have features, they're legal requirements. If your software can't guarantee those outputs, it fails the business need test. Period.
Okay, so now let's dive into the systemic factors, the things we kind of ignore until there's a disaster. Let's start with security. In today's world, security isn't a feature, it's a prerequisite.
The core requirement here has evolved so much. It's not just about firewalls anymore. It's about establishing a zero-trust architecture right down to the hardware itself. The OS has to protect data, manage access, and proactively stop attacks.
You mentioned hardware there. Can you elaborate on that link? I mean, for our listener, how does my OS choice relate to physical hardware security now compared to maybe 10 years ago?
That's a great question. Today, modern operating systems like Windows 11 fundamentally rely on hardware components like the Trusted Platform Module, the TPM, and Secure Boot.
The things people were complaining about when it was first announced.
The very same. But the OS security posture is now completely dependent on these chips. They provide cryptographic keys, and they verify the boot chain is clean before the operating system even loads.
So choosing an OS now means choosing one that can actually use those hardware features.
Precisely, to enable things like drive encryption by default. And this completely changes how a big company plans a rollout. Because if your existing fleet of computers doesn't have a required TPM chip, then that OS choice is immediately incompatible. It adds cost, but the risk reduction is seen as mandatory.
That integrated security is really what defines a system's resilience. But let's move to our last critical factor, performance. When we say performance, I think most people just think speed. But that's too simple, isn't it?
It is. Performance is speed and reliability, but specifically under load.
Right.
It's measured by system responsiveness and how efficiently it manages resources.
Right.
If an app is fast when it's the only thing running, that's fine. But real performance is how the OS and the app manage memory, CPU cycles, and I/O when dozens of other programs are all fighting for those same resources.
So it's about minimizing the drag of the software itself. I remember when a slow computer was just a fact of life. Now, if an app feels sluggish for even a second, the user experience just falls apart.
It collapses, exactly. And this leads to really sophisticated trade-offs. For example, some modern OS architectures use a lot of virtualization like running containers or security sandboxes.
Which is great for security.
It's fantastic for security and compatibility. But That extra layer of abstraction introduces overhead, which can potentially slow things down. So you're constantly balancing performance against security and features.
We mentioned earlier how SSDs dramatically improve Windows boot times. That's pretty common knowledge now, but what's the deeper insight there? How is the software actually engineered to take advantage of that better hardware?
Yeah, it's about how the OS scheduler is optimized. Modern file systems and memory management are designed specifically to reduce disk crashing and prioritize application responsiveness, what you feel over just raw data transfer speed. So the choice of OS dictates how efficiently your billion-dollar server farm, or just your laptop, uses its RAM and storage. A poorly optimized OS, even on the fastest hardware, will feel slow because it's just mismanaging those resources.
Okay, let's pull it all together. Let's synthesize these 6 critical factors we've just unpacked. We have cost, security, compatibility, features, needs, and performance. And these aren't 6 separate things.
Got it all.
They're a matrix of interlocking constraints, a foundational checklist for any tech decision, big or small.
And here's a final thought for you, the learner, to really chew on. Remember that technology choice is always about constraint satisfaction. It's about what fits.
It fits.
Imagine you find some niche scientific tool. Let's call it Deep Calc. And it has 5 features you absolutely need. It perfectly satisfies your needs and features criteria. But Deep Calc only runs on a specific version of Linux you don't know how to use, and it requires specialized hardware you don't own.
So you're stuck.
You're stuck. In that scenario, your choice isn't driven by which tool is technically better. It's driven by which tool fits the constraints of your budget, your skills, and your existing environment. Compatibility often puts a hard, unforgiving ceiling on your desire for features.
That is a really powerful way to frame it. It's prioritizing survival over aspiration, in a way. So we'll challenge you to review your own tech stack, the OS you use for work, the apps you rely on every day. Which of these 6 factors were the real deciders? Was it a security mandate from your IT department, the low cost of an open source tool, or was it that one killer feature you just couldn't get anywhere else? Thanks for diving deep with us.